Tyler, Keith, we're plugged on. You're plugged on.
Yes.
You plugged this video on.
Yes.
You plugged your computer on.
You plugged your... Maybe.
You
don't have to, but you could plug your computer on. But you plugged onto the internet.
Yeah.
And then...
You're here.
You're here with us currently, right now, in this moment.
Yeah.
Well, not the moment we're recording. Never mind. I'm gonna stop this joke.
We are going to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story, the latest and greatest in the Star Wars film series
universe.
In the second of this Star Wars anthology stuff that they have going on. This is in a post Star Wars The Last Jedi world, which just ripped everything.
Which is just
apparently.
Which is both a great yet not great time to be a Star Wars fan.
Yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. So this movie, though, I feel like out of all the movies Disney announced, Disney and Lucasfilm announced pretty early on that they're doing. This one was the one that people were like, I don't really want that. So this movie focuses on Han Solo and how he kind of comes to be in one way or another. How he gets things and all sorts of stuff. I think why people didn't want this movie is because Harrison Ford is not in this movie at all. It's a younger Han Solo played by Alden Ehrenreich. I always fuck it up. So we have a new take on Han Solo, which is like forbidden. And it could be good, could be bad. Who knows? We'll talk about it. So yeah, definitely an interesting take. Also, this movie had a lot of like production issues, especially with directors. Ron Howard coming in, taking over the project later on. It had the directors who did the Lego Batman movie.
Yeah, I want to look up.
There's two of them. But yeah. And also this movie has Donald Glover's in it as Lando, Emilia Clarke is in it, and Woody Harrelson, Paul Bettany, John Favreau as a voice. It has a solid cast of actors and actresses, so that is certainly something.
Yeah.
To like.
Phil Lord and Christopher Miller.
Phil Lord. They were in the credits.
Yeah, but they just... I think because they did... I think they did a couple other things with the movies, too. But they just ended up not working out as director, and they brought in Ron Howard, who does a good job at fixing other people's movies, apparently.
Yeah. So I think it's kind of going to be hard to talk about a lot of things with this movie without getting into any spoilers.
I think there's some things that I also feel like we can reference and talk about that aren't exactly spoilers.
Yeah.
Because, just the story, the nature of the story, and the nature of...
We'll hit at a pretty high level for now. What'd you think?
Yeah, I actually enjoyed this movie. I think it is a fun movie to watch. Now, granted, you can pick up the majority of the stuff that what you need to know about Han Solo, you already get from meeting him and him talking about his accomplishments in the original trilogy, and a lot of those details are in there. With him dropping out of the Royal Academy to be a pilot and the Kessel Run and things like that. Those are all here, and they're a part of this story. But he makes it in 12 parsecs, and that's like how he introduces the Millennium Falcon in Episode 4. So it's like, boom, you know the important stuff, but it's nice to see it fleshed out a little bit, like how he got to there. Which maybe that is a slower part of the movie, but I think it almost had to happen. Like the first 20, 30 minutes of the movie are kind of slow, but I think it's fine. It didn't bother me as much as maybe a lot of other people, and so I mean, despite all the problems, again, this was a movie that I went in with low expectations because of all the problems. I mean, essentially they kind of half filmed a movie for the first part of it, so I heard, and then Ron Howard came in and finished it. So it's like for 8 months there was a lot of improv scenes. Apparently that was one of the stories that I heard, was that they would have a lot of the actors improv and they were trying to make it a comedy in some ways, It was like a lot of the stuff that was kind of floating around the internet. So it's strange that this movie is as good as it is. Now, it's not the greatest thing ever made. No, I would almost, almost put, anything from like the original trilogy and the new stuff above it. But it's definitely better than the prequel trilogy, and it's not terrible. I enjoyed it a lot. Alden Ehrenreich did a good job, I think. I mean, again, not perfect. He's not Harrison Ford, but then again, I don't think anybody could be. But like, for again, some of the problems that I heard, like, oh yeah, there's having problems on set. The finished product, looks all right. And other things like a little bit of trepidation with Emilia Clarke being in the movie. She's not proven to be very like accomplished outside of Game of Thrones. Terminator Genesis and a couple other movies besides that. But I think she did fine. Like, I think just about all the actors, I think, put up a fairly good performance. I don't really know if anybody... I mean, Donald Glover probably had a great performance. And that's just, partially him and partially Lando Calrissian being the type of character that he is. But I think everybody was on par for the whole thing.
Minus Woody Harrelson to me.
But I mean, I said on par. He's not great, but he's like, okay, it's fine. That's what I mean. It's like, it's not like, oh wow, that's bad.
Yeah, it's just, to me, when you have Woody Harrelson, I'm like, he's a good actor. He's going to really bring something extra here to Star Wars, and he was very just kind of flat a lot of this movie.
Yeah,
not terrible, but he didn't like wow me with anything. Where he can.
Yeah,
because he's done it. In so many other films.
Like, I've seen War for the Planet of the Apes and Zombieland. I know what his range is and what he can do. Or True Detective.
He's amazing at True Detective. He's apparently also, I haven't seen it. I really want to, but he's really good in 3 Billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri from last year.
Okay, but yeah, I think visually, the visual effects for this movie and some of the sequences and whatnot are all fun to watch and interesting, and it's very... It kind of sets up with, like, you can almost kind of believe how Han Solo has this, even though he kind of already starts off with this blown up ego in a lot of ways. You can kind of see why. And then soundtrack was fairly alright. It didn't stick out like sometimes a lot of Star Wars movies do. It was like, oh, that's a cool thing, but it was, but there was some parts where I'm like, oh, cool, there's some cool stuff happening. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the movie as well.
The soundtrack stood out to me more when, like, there was a lot of action going on, and it was a more, like, thunderous score, you could say. Like, a lot of the softer moments didn't stand out as much as a lot of, like, John Williams has in the mainline movies. But there was some good stuff there. James Powell is who did it. So, props to him. I too enjoyed this movie, and kind of like you said, like it takes a while to get going. At first, I was not really feeling. I'm like, this is kind of. I found myself thinking about other things when I was watching it at first, and I'm like, it's whatever. But to me, it's in the trailers, so when it gets to the train sequence, I feel like that's when this movie really starts to ramp up and really starts to become its own thing, because that whole thing is fucking awesome. And even then, some of the other, I guess, slower, more character and plot development that goes on, some of those moments then after that, I think are really well done too. I think Alden, he was fine in this movie. Like, there's certainly some things where I was like, nah, but then for the most part, I thought he did a good job. And by the end of the movie, I was starting to feel a lot more. It was almost like he was more comfortable at being Han Solo and making it a little bit more of his own, but also capturing the character a little bit.
Or maybe it's, by the end of the movie, he's becoming more of the Han Solo that we know. It could be another interpretation. It's an actual thing. It's like, oh yeah,
yeah. But there's certain sections of this movie, which we'll talk about later with some spoilers, that I just think he fucking nailed as Han Solo. Really just well done. And hey, if they did another movie with him, I wouldn't be disappointed at this point. Donald Glover as Lando is like an amazing choice, and I think he did a great job. And the two together, I thought were awesome as well. There's some cooler side characters, but they don't stand out to me as much as some others in Star Wars. Like L3 was neat.
She was, yeah,
a little bit like. I don't really know how to put it. Like, I don't think I'm going to remember L3 that much after this movie, but watching it, I enjoyed her presence.
Yeah.
The little monkey man, Rio, with like 6 arms. I'm like, this guy's cool. And then things, but
stuff.
Yeah, like I liked him a lot. None of these characters stood out to me as much as the guy from Rogue One. Oh, I'm blanking on his fucking name.
The Riz is the actor. Oh, KS9. KS9. There's probably a couple other numbers in there, but it's like KS9 something.
Yeah. Like, he was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
And obviously there's some other ones from the new movies, like BB-8 that's really good too.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed these characters' presence, but I don't think, like, I'm going to be fucking putting them on an all-time Star Wars character list.
No.
You know?
Yeah, like,
they're fine.
I mean, it's about Han Solo and, I guess, Lando and Chewie. Everybody else just kind of falls into place.
Yeah. And I think this movie does... It's interesting because it's a very dark, dirty, very kind of devoid of life sort of movie. Like, they go to some grimy fucking places. And I guess that's part of Han Solo's character. He's a smuggler. He's not doing very great things in great places. So I guess that makes sense. But when you have, you know, some of the most recent Star Wars movies that have been made where there's a lot of color and brightness to the world sometimes, you know, I don't think it's necessarily a bad thing because it's almost like a flip side of something different a little bit. But at the same time, it was a little bit like fuck, this place was dark, now that place is dark, and that place is dark, and that place was dark. Like, I just wish there was maybe just a little bit of like pop to it a little bit, in terms of that. Yeah. I think overall it's a fine movie, and you gotta stick with it. Like I think once you get past the first 20 minutes or so, you know, just sit back and relax and don't nitpick the shit out of it, and just go along for the ride. And I think when you do that, when you let yourself settle in, you'll have a good time, for sure. I know that's going to be hard for some people to do.
Yeah.
Honestly, like, it's going to be very hard for some people to accept somebody different playing Han Solo than Harrison Ford. And don't get me wrong, I'm not Alden. While he did a fine job, Harrison Ford is kind of unmatched in that role. He's always going to be Han Solo. And props to Alden, because honestly, that's an impossible fucking task.
Yeah,
to try to be a character like that. That is fucking impossible to do. And Disney and Lucasfilm just did not set anybody up who took that role, anybody up for success. Because that's just an impossible task, impossible thing to live up to in people's eyes, just because of how much Star Wars means to a lot of people. Yeah. And especially Han Solo being one of the most prominent characters in the universe, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Speaking of universe, though, last thing I'll say, there's a lot of really cool universe building in here. That I like just little things, like just crazy, weird ass fucking creatures that only Star Wars can really do, or weird ass like human things that only Star Wars can really do. Some of the locations were really cool, too, like in terms of just some of the environments, but also like I liked how they, like, in Rogue One did a good job of this too. It's just like, what is life like for people under the Empire?
Yeah. You
don't see that a lot throughout the original trilogy, I feel, because it's mostly focused on the rebellion and like the clash between the two. But like, what is life like when the Empire is ruling and the rebellion isn't 100% going yet.
Yeah.
You know? In Rogue One, and I think this movie do a pretty cool job of building some of that stuff up.
I was thinking that too. I'm like, it's cool to see like what life's actually like, because like you said, it's all about the rebellion, or you're on Tatooine where the Empire only is somewhat there, like it's on the Outer Rim. I also would be very curious to see what, like, almost like a Star Wars like spy movie. I think it'd be cool where it's like you see the opposite. You see like the upper class of the Star Wars, the upper echelon of the Star Wars universe. I'd be super interested in seeing something like that too. Maybe again, if there's rumors that they're considering a Lando solo movie, not Lando standalone movie. There we go. I'll fix my verbiage there. I mean, granted, it probably would be a Lando solo movie, but like if they do that, that would be an interesting.
That's so weird. Yeah,
it probably might go down that path, but it could be interesting. So
yeah, it's neat. Watch it.
Good movie. I don't think anybody should. Don't discount this movie. I'd say go watch it. I think there's enough there for where if you watch it and you don't like it, fine. That's fine. I could honestly see some parts where I look at this and I'm like, all right, yeah, I can see where some people could not be fans of this, but don't just write it off without seeing it. I think this deserves a watch.
Yeah. And gotta give credit where this is, but we saw a tweet recently from Brian Altano, who does stuff at IGN and the Comedy Button, and he said, as long as you accept that nothing is going to touch the original trilogy and get as worse as like Attack of the Clones, for example, you're good. Because that's the top and that's the bottom, and I don't think you're really going to go above that too often.
And you're not going to go below it.
You're not going to go below it.
I think Star Wars or Lucasfilms has learned, and they're not going to probably stoop that low.
Yeah.
And like I said, I would not put this movie anywhere near the bottom.
I mean, I would put The Last Jedi underneath all of them.
You shut your mouth right now.
Just gonna be that guy. What'd you give it?
I've been bouncing back and forth. You know what? I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. I liked it.
That's where I was gonna sit.
It was either that or a 7.5. But I'm like, I'll be brave. 8 out of 10.
It's a fun movie, for sure.
Definitely enjoyable.
All right, we're gonna talk spoilers. Come back to it. Whenever you see the movie. If you don't want to hear any of this stuff, there's a few things that I think we definitely need to talk about.
Yeah.
I want to start at the top.
Start at the top, the big thing?
To me, I fucking hate how Han Solo got his name.
Gotcha. It's really cheesy and really dumb.
It's unbelievably cheesy.
Granted, I
can't
in some
believe
ways,
they did that.
In some ways, I get it, I'm like, okay, sure, but then at the same time, I'm like, can't that just be his name?
Yeah, I know.
Like, does it have to be? Because, like, maybe if they had set it up, I don't know, if they had somehow set it up a bit more, it just seemed like there was some kind of joke we weren't, or not joke, there was something we weren't getting. Like, maybe because, they grew up on, I don't even remember the name of the planet, some poor planet. He doesn't have a last name. And that's fine. And then, but like, also then maybe have him come up with a dumb name. I would have been more okay with that if he was like, I'm Han Solo. That would have been better than some fucking Imperial officer being like, oh, you're by yourself?
Just
Han Solo.
Some dumbass, random ass Imperial officer is apparently how Han Solo got his name, or at least his last name.
Yeah,
what? I'm not one. I think people get way too obsessed and crazy with Star Wars lore, and it's a fucking cool universe, don't get me wrong, but, like, people were mad about The Last Jedi because it's not the lore that they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
That's part of the reason, in my opinion, why people don't like that movie. But this is, like, one of the very few things that I'm just like, what? Like, honestly, The Last Jedi, spoilers, like, alright, Luke dies at the end. Force ghost. Whatever. And there's some weird, definitely some interesting things that they do lore-wise in that movie. I am fine with pretty much all of that, but this I'm just like, no, bro. You can do way better than that. There's a
that's a
way better way to do that.
That is a low hanging fruit.
Yeah.
You need to reach a little higher.
Yeah. So yeah, that's probably the one like thing that just sticks out to me with this movie that I just did not like. I guess skipping ahead more towards the end.
Basically,
the other big thing in this
basically
movie.
The other things toward the end.
Which, when it happened, you and I just looked at each other like, what? And I think the theater was kind of like, whoa, did not see that coming. So Emilia Clarke's character decides to be a turd. And
which is fine. I think that's actually cool. The Crimson...
Crimson Dawn.
Crimson Dawn, that's what they're named.
She's going to take it over. Paul Bettany got fucked up. He's done.
He did.
Get out of here. She's taking it over. She brings up the hologram of whoever the master is for the Crimson Dawn.
And at first, even though I was like, okay, that's not it, I thought it was the Emperor. I mean, with the hood, I was like,
me too.
I'm like, that doesn't sound like him.
Yeah, because they did a shot from the side and all you see is a hood.
I'm like, but first off, I'm like, that doesn't look like him. And it's like, what? And then the hood comes down, and it's Darth Maul. Now, once I figured that, I'm like, is it Darth Maul? Is this happening? And then it's Darth Maul, and I'm like, oh, all right, that's cool. Like, again, it's established he's alive. He's in Clone Wars and Rebels. He dies in Rebels. But, yeah, I'm like, all right, that's pretty nifty. The only thing is, how does... That's a question they might have to answer at some point. How the fuck does he get there? Because he's just kind of on his own in Rebels when he shows up. How the fuck does he go from being the head of a humongous criminal organization? Unless it's like a background thing, and you know what I mean? Who knows? But it's cool though. Like I said, I'm all for it.
Yeah, I am too.
I don't think they got the same guy. I'm 90% sure it's not the same guy playing him in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I'll have to look. But
yeah,
I'm like,
but I mean, Darth Maul is just an amazing character. That was, I mean, yes, he's in Rebels, but at least in the main movies, completely fucking wasted, because he dies in the prequels. He was just awesome, and to have him back in the movies, you know, in some way,
it is the guy from Episode 1. It is the same guy.
Wow.
All right, that's
neat. Kudos
to them. Yeah. All right, fuck right.
And to me, they totally did it just to get, you know, something out of the people that are excited about. But like when he, you know, used the Force, brought his lightsaber over, and then, you know, and it came out both ends. I'm like, yeah.
And again,
loved it.
And the other thing that's super cool. Maybe this is just me. I also was like, even though I kind of saw it coming there towards the end, because it seems like they were really, really trying to be like, hey, look, Han and Kira is a thing, which you know they're not going to be a thing because Han ends up with Leia. But I'm like, all right, she's going to betray him. I'm like, this just makes me curious because I almost want to see her come back in something. Yeah. You know what I mean? Just to see what else. Also, just throwing this out there, never really seen Emilia Clarke play a villainous character. Who knows? Mm-hmm. Maybe she'll go above and beyond because she was like, okay, she was all right in this one. Yeah, a couple moments here and there, but I was a little surprised she was there from the very beginning. But yeah,
me too. I was kind of surprised on that, and she wasn't bad. She wasn't bad, but she didn't blow me away.
I mean, she's a fine actress.
Yeah,
great as Daenerys Targaryen for the most part. Okay, and everything else, but. Yeah, I mean the whole thing in the Maelstrom during the Kessel Run was awesome. It's probably one of the most visually cool things ever. Especially again, one of the things like you were saying on the drive home, where it was like, you know, you get to see like, oh yeah, Han Solo, he's the real fucking deal when it comes to being a pilot. He's not like just some guy who's like, I'm the best pilot out there. He's like, look at this shit.
Yeah, and like we saw some cool things that he did in the original trilogy in terms of being a pilot, and to have that in this movie, I just think solidifies that aspect of his character so much more because of how he was just like, yeah, I'm taking over. and watch me, and I'm gonna fucking do this. And he did it, and it was just that whole section was just awesome, because when he took over and their first of all, just the world building for that was just awesome. And they're flying through this, like, the only tunnel sort of thing that they can go through to get to this world. And then they're like, what's that? And you see this fucking Star Destroyer.
And I'm just like,
that was so sick looking.
Like, that is a Zack Snyder sick shot.
It
like,
fucking was.
right.
And the lightning's coming down with the lighting. It was amazing. And I'm like, he's going to fly through that shit. And even when they're flying into it, they're like, yeah, there's these planet-sized things, and they're crashing into each other. Nobody gets out of that alive. I'm like, they're going through that at some point.
You're fucking going through it, and you're going to fucking do it, and it's just going to be like, boom.
But then the whole thing with the giant octopus-like thing, I forget what it actually is, but when they're getting stuck in the gravity well, in that whole thing, that was just thrilling to watch. And I just thought that was the section of this movie that I think Alden nailed the most, honestly. And it was really cool. And it was so exciting when, like, Chewie became the co-pilot with him. I was like, yes.
Fuck,
that's just awesome.
This is when he's at.
How do you feel about how Han and Chewie first came together in the beginning?
I actually kind of like it. I know it's very much a different take to what originally happens. I think originally Han saves Chewie from, like, being a slave in a lot of ways, which I guess technically he does in this one. But, like, at first it didn't click that that's what was going to happen. You know what I mean? They threw him in a pit, and I'm like, oh, is it going to be like a Rancor or something? That could be cool. Like, bring the Rancor back, and I'm like, wait, I forgot what movie I'm watching. There's only one thing it could be, and it was Chewie. And I'm like, all right, I can see it. I was like, yeah, it was pretty all right.
I thought it was fine, except for Han speaking.
I was just about to say language. the Wookiee stuff. I'm like, all right, come on. First off, kudos if it was Alden Ehrenreich, kudos to him for doing a pretty good Chewbacca impression. Yeah. I will give him that, but it's just like you never do this at any other time in any other movie.
Yes.
Why?
And well, yeah.
Like I get it. Maybe it's to show Chewie. Look, I get it. We can communicate, but it's almost like
because even just in the original trilogy, like Han Solo always just automatically understood Chewie when he's just making noises. I guess that's what they were trying to get out. I just thought it was corny.
It was really cool. It maybe shouldn't have gone on as long as it did. Like maybe just like one or two lines where it's with the subtitles, which also funny. Han gets subtitles when he's speaking Wookiee. Chewie not so much.
Yeah, it's weird.
It's like, come on.
Yeah, I also thought it was just like a really kind of funny thing when it shouldn't have been. When so Han and Chewie join Woody Harrelson's group in Maeve from Westworld. I'm blanking on her actor's name, but yeah, joins the group in the monkey. John Favreau, and they're standing around a campfire of like, why do you want to do this mission? And they're going on about it, and Han asks Chewie, and Chewie's just like, and I'm like, this is supposed to be like a serious moment, but it went on way too long.
I thought it was kind of funny. I'm like, you're doing this on purpose, and you know what? Fine. But yep, just not again. Maybe besides a slow beginning, which is again, I don't think it's terrible. It's just slow.
Yeah. Maybe
the only part that kind of was meh was the actual like, oh yeah, you're gonna be on a war on some planet. I don't even know if we ever found out the name of it. No. It's like you're just gonna be a part of a war. I'm like, all right, that's like the only part that I'm like, all right, this part's a little meh. But like everything else, like even like the raid on Kessel, I thought was done fairly well, and then everything on. I don't remember the name of the planet. That the last planet they were on.
The sand
planet.
Sand one.
Savarine. You know, that like stuff like that. Like everything was good. I thought it's just not super necessary, but enjoyable.
Yeah, this movie's fun. It doesn't get you like super fucking stoked about a lot of things that's in it. You watch the original trilogy, and then even I think Force Awakens and The Last Jedi, and there's some just extremely exciting things in those movies. Where this one, there was a lot of good stuff and very, very few things that was like, yes. I guess the last thing I just want to mention is the whole thing, I think, initially between Han Solo and Lando playing their poker sort of game over the Millennium Falcon and who wins that. I just liked how they came together with that. Personally, I think it was neat. It was well done. I liked it at the end.
Little bit of a fake out there. I thought because I know the story. Han won in a card game. I'm like, Han's gonna win the Falcon, and then he didn't. But then he won it at the end of the game, and it's like,
and he won it in like the coolest way
because he caught Lando cheating, which is again like a part of the story. And it's like boom. So and then they go off to Tatooine, and thus. That's how he gets under Jabba the Hutt's thumb.
Yep.
And boom, there we go. There's a story. So, fun movie. Again, don't write it off. Don't just write it off. And be like, I'm not watching.
They just fleshed out his character, I think, with things that we already knew.
This is one of those things where it's like you definitely like. Don't watch the movies in order that they happen. Like, don't watch this before the original trilogy because it's some of the jokes are leveled there at times. Maybe you could be a leader. You could lead. You could help lead the rebellion someday. And he goes, "Don't hold your breath." And I'm like,
"Yep." and the whole thing about betrayals when Woody Harrelson's character is like, everybody betrays you. You should think everybody's going to betray you. That happens in this movie, but then it also made me think, Kylo Ren.
Also makes me think. Lando in Empire Strikes Back.
Yeah.
If you wanted
True.
Like,
what did he have at the end?
What?
The little fucking vial sort of thing.
That's like the.
What was that?
That's a little bit of the. Let me look it up. I can tell you what the stuff. The coaxium.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of coaxium. Yeah, it's a little bit of coaxium. It's like, but it's a really little bit. Yeah. Like
I thought it was something different. I was like, what is that? So yeah. Solo Star Wars story. Go see it. It's neat.
A lot of fun.
Thanks for watching.
Bye-bye.
Some fun stuff coming up.
Yeah. Lots of cool things happening soon.
Dolphin bangs.
Yeah.
See ya.